I put out a call to my YouTube subscribers and my YouTube viewers to ask me anything about my collection or about record collecting in general, and that's what this video is about. Welcome to another episode of Talking About Records. My name is G.I. Sanders from NTX Vinyl, small chain of independent record shops in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you're in the United States, you can shop online at ntxvinyl.com. Would appreciate you if you subscribe here on YouTube, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. All right, this is probably one of the videos I've been looking forward to more than any others, and that's because I don't have to do any prep at all because you did it for me. I have not looked at these questions. Over 75 or so came in from a forum that I put out, and I asked the YouTube vinyl community, my subscribers or viewers, said, hey, ask me anything about my collection. And I've got a list of 75, and I'm going to randomly pick them. Like I said, I'm coming in blind. I don't know what these are. Hopefully there's some good ones. There's no way I'll get to all of them. I'm going to try and pick off at least maybe 15 or 20, whatever I can get to, depending on how in depth some of these go, right? Just for a little context, my collection is about 3,000 records in this room. The majority of it, which is the wall behind me, are my rock LPs, which is everything from classic rock to alternative to metal to punk. I've also got R&B, jazz, blues, and I've got some country soundtracks, box sets, things like that. So that's kind of what we're working with. If there's questions about stuff I simply don't have, I'm obviously just going to let you know, right? All right, here we go. I'm just going to randomly go down this list and pick some questions. Let's get to it. First one that catches my eye. How many records do you estimate you have in your collection, and how many purchases do you make a year? Already answered. I've got about 3,000 in my collection. How many purchases do I make a year? Ooh, that's hard. I bet I bring in 10 or 15 albums a month, honestly. So you can do the math from there. And that's a mix of new records or used records that I get from collections. All right. What is your favorite Beatles album and why? Favorite Beatles album and why? This is really hard. I think if I'm going to go favorite Beatles album, I'm probably going to choose the White Album. It just has such a great cross-section of songwriting on it. This is a copy that I've got. This is really cool. It's a white vinyl, 1978 pressing, and it's actually got a pretty unique, some of these have some swirl on them. I think you can see it on that second one. So yeah, the White Album for me, a little bit of swirl on that one. The White Album is probably my number one, but you know, talk to me tomorrow and it might be Let It Be, it might be Abbey Road, it just kind of depends. Beatles, my Beatles selection is probably about right there, so I've got a lot of Beatles records. All right, what record, I'm just randomly, whatever catches my eye, what record in your collection do you like to play last to top off a listening session? Play last? That's really hard. I'm thinking about like winding down at night. Let's see, here's a record. See if I can find it. This is an album that I often gravitate towards at the end of the night, and that is White Ladder by David Gray. Absolutely love this record. This is a really cool, it's been in print recently if you can grab a copy of it. This is the anniversary edition of it, and it is also on white vinyl, which I really like. So that's definitely a great wind down album for me, and one that I find myself gravitating towards quite often. Definitely check it out if you're not familiar. All right, what's next on the list? What albums have the red, white, and blue spine? I knew someone was going to ask this. Okay, I don't know if you can see them down here. The red, white, and blue spines, these are in almost every video I shoot if I'm sitting. And what these are, this is a band called Tripping Daisy, and they are from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And these albums, this is an album called Jesus Hits Like the Atom Bomb. This was reissued for the first time on vinyl just in the last year or two. And the reason why I have so many is because A, it's one of the most important albums of my life because I love this band. They're one of the reasons why I got into playing music. And I've got several different versions. You notice that's the pink version. There's also blue and clear. I'm not a big variants collector, but of a band like Tripping Daisy and an album like that, I couldn't help myself. Then the reason why there's so many, because I've got like 4 of that one. Then they also put out their self-titled record, which is even lesser known, and it comes on a number of different variants as well. So they are one of those bands, and these are a couple of albums that really set themselves apart in my collection, because I honestly don't have that many variants of different colors of artists. But that's why, and they've all got OB strips, which is why they kind of match, which is really great. And they're put out locally by another record shop in Dallas called Good Records, which is also a record label. And again, Tripping Daisy is just one of those artists for me that I absolutely love. All right. What album have you regretted not getting when it was released? Oh God, that list is too long. Probably Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, not buying an original version of that. I have several other versions. I have the box set. I have a bunch of unofficial imports, but Melancholy by Smashing Pumpkins, because they were numbered, just really regret not getting that back in the 90s. All right. What is your most expensive vinyl purchase, excluding box sets, and what would be your dollar limit on something you want? Again, excluding box sets. Dollar limit's pretty good. I do have a dollar limit. In fact, I got, just recently, I got offered, I don't know if I got offered. I was in a discussion with a guy who has a Pearl Jam LP. I guess you could call it a box set. It's the Benaroya Hall box set, or I think it's a 4 LP live show. And that thing goes for over $2,000, and it's really the only LP or set that I don't have in my Pearl Jam collection. I just can't bring myself to spend that on a record. That's just really difficult. As far as what I have spent, most expensive record, man, that's really hard. I don't think I've ever spent cash more than a couple $100. I can think of one where I did spend a little bit. It is going to be right here, and that is an original copy of Mother Love Bone's Apple. This is an iconic record for me. It sets the stage for everything that came after it, speaking of Pearl Jam, and so much in Seattle and the Pacific Northwest scene. So Mother Love Bone Apple, I'm pretty sure I paid $200 or something for that, which honestly is probably about the most I've ever paid for a record. I haven't, again, box sets excluded, that's probably about the most I've ever paid cash. I've done a lot of trades for records, but not anything higher than that trash. All right, do you shy away from 45s? No, I really don't. I'm gonna come over here to the 45s. I do have a small collection of 45s, and I've actually got them in these vintage cases that I restored. So I've got some 45s. There's plenty. I've got another box over there, and I've also got a couple other small crates full. I don't shy away from them. It's just not something like, you know, if you don't have a jukebox, it's really hard to enjoy 45s endlessly, and I listen to a lot of records, so 45s are just a little labor intensive, even for me as a vinyl nerd. All right, let's see. I think your shelves look really good. Could you share a bit about how they were made? That's an easy one because I didn't make them. Well, kinda. Everything you see here is a built-in unit. When we moved into this house, it was presumably for books, I would think. The only thing I did is I replaced these heavy duty, which are probably inch and a quarter thick boards that I just cut them and stained them, and they're actually just stacked. So these are inset, as you can see, and so I've got those boards inside of these, and they're just resting, and then the weight's just keeping it on. I've got some wood glue to keep it in place. So super simple, and it was a huge upgrade because prior to having these in here, it was just probably half-inch thick boards that are made out of the same kind of white material, and they were starting to sag big time. If you look back at some of my really early videos, you'll see the old shelves in there. All right, let's go to the second page here just to see. There's a ton of questions, so I'm gonna get through as many as I can. All right, how do you arrange your records? Alphabetically? Yes. First, last name. So I go alphabetically by last name. I don't count any prefixes like the. So somebody asked me recently, how do I categorize Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers? Do I put it under Tom? Do I put it under Petty? Do I put it under Heartbreakers? For me, I put everything under P for Petty, including his solo albums, because I just like to have those grouped together. But everything is, again, alphabetical. So David Gray, that was under G, not under D. I definitely go by last names. All right, what is your favorite Dylan record? Ooh, so I've got a bunch of copies of it. I'll pull out one from here. I've got a bunch of Dylan records. My favorite Dylan record, without a doubt, without even having to think about it, is Blonde on Blonde. Absolutely fantastic record, double LP. If I was going to introduce anyone to Dylan, that's the album I'd start with. I can't tell you how much I love 70s era, mid 70s era Dylan. Absolutely love it. All right. Tool, Nine Inch Nails, and Primus all suck. It was hard to type that without smacking myself. Love the channel. Keep it up. No question there. Thanks for the comment. All right. Which album do you treasure the most because you got the best deal on it? Ooh, that's hard. Best deal on it? I have to probably think back to when I got a lot of original stuff. Actually, we'll say with Tom Petty, since I was just talking about him. I know for a fact that I got this album, which is an original 1994, yeah, 1994 copy of Wildflowers by Tom Petty, which has always been one of my favorite Tom Petty records. Saw him on this tour. I bought this new. I know the store I bought it at in Dallas, and I probably paid 20 bucks for it. So that's a pretty good deal considering the original copies of this are, you know, I don't know, $300-400 or something like that. Thank God they reissued it so more people can get their hands on it because, again, it's a fantastic album. All right, let's see what else we got here. I'm gonna keep cranking through. Do you only put LPs in your collection that are new that you got or was a gift? I have to stay away from used, except for a couple of rare items. No, my collection is a complete mix of pre-owned and new vinyl. I buy a ton of both. If I'm hunting, if I'm out digging at a record store, I'm primarily looking for pre-owned vinyl because obviously I work with distributors through NTX Vinyl. So if I want a new record, I usually get it through my distribution channels. But yeah, I buy a ton of pre-owned records. I would say at least 50% of my collection, if not more, is pre-owned. And if you go into other genres, R&B and country, almost all of it's pre-owned. So a ton of pre-owned vinyl. And I think over time I've gotten a lot more comfortable buying pre-owned records because I've been buying them, you know, for 20-30 years. So it just takes time to know what to look for, to know what condition to look for, and how to kind of make a decision on whether or not it's a good choice as far as a used record is concerned. All right. Do you always do a dry clean with a brush before you do a wet clean? I try to. It depends what the record looks like. If I pull out a pre-owned record, I could see that it's not necessarily dirty, but more so dusty, then I'll just give it a dry clean. If there's residue, fingerprints, or anything that you can see that looks like it's going to need a little bit of a scrub, then that's when I'll go with the wet clean. So, all right. Who is the most influential hard rock band ever? Why is it Led Zeppelin, and why is Led Zeppelin 4 their greatest album? I don't disagree on Led Zeppelin. I would challenge that, though. I would challenge Led Zeppelin as far as hard rock is concerned, and I would challenge it with this band right here, Black Sabbath. It took me years to actually come to the fruition that Black Sabbath was as important as Led Zeppelin in regards to influence on heavy rock. So Sabbath, I would challenge that. As far as Zeppelin is concerned, Led Zeppelin 4, yes, I agree, fantastic. But if you're going to ask me my favorite Led Zeppelin album, it's going to be right there. It's going to be Physical Graffiti. It goes back and forth between this and Led Zeppelin 3. For me, the diversity, just absolutely incredible. But again, kind of like the Beatles question, ask me tomorrow and it could be different. All right. What is your favorite live album in your collection? Oh, I've done videos on live albums. This is really hard. There's so many iconic live albums. Probably the first one that comes to mind is going to be right here in the B's, and that is going to be The Last Waltz by the band. Absolutely phenomenal live album, the most kind of iconic concert performance I think that you can point to. The film was amazing, directed by Martin Scorsese. If you don't know this album, please fix that because it is an absolute treasure and a piece of rock and roll history. All right, I'm going to keep going. How many Neil Young records do you own, and what is your favorite of all time? Oh dear. So I've done a video on my Neil Young collection as well. It's going to be way down here, as you'd expect. My favorite Neil Young record, that's really, really hard. I want to say Harvest because it's kind of a no-brainer. But I think if I'm going to gravitate towards and if I'm not going to do live records, so I've got a lot of Neil Young live, but if I'm going to talk about something that I gravitate towards more than any other, it's probably going to be this album, and that's Tonight's the Night. Very sad record, very bluesy and soulful record. Just an incredible piece of work, and it captured the time in Neil's career where he was in a lot of pain, and it shows on this record. Check out Tonight's the Night if you're not familiar with that record. Harvest is a no-brainer though. Zuma is great as well. After the Gold Rush, there's so many good ones. Check out my Neil Young video of the whole collection. I walked through them all. As a musician, what one record would you have wanted to play on when it was originally recorded? You mentioned being in a band. Oh my God, what one album would I have wanted to record on? I'll go back to here. I'm just gonna put myself in the room during the Let It Be sessions, right? That's what I'm gonna do. If there's one album, I just wanna be in the room so I can get rid of all of the naysayers about what actually happened and how good or bad the vibe was, because I'd be in the room with Let It Be. How about that for an answer? I'm gonna go with it. All right, let's keep going. What album gave you the most satisfaction once you owned it? Not because of how it sounds, but because it was finally in your collection. Oh man, that's tough. I kind of want to go with Tool Inema because I recently acquired it. That was a really important one for me. What album gives you the most satisfaction? That's really hard. I think I thought of one, and it is kind of another grail type of item. This is one I thought I would never own. I honestly had just written it off because I love the musician, and I thought maybe it'd get reissued, but you never know with certain types of albums. This is Beck's Midnight Vultures. This is a niche album for Beck, most notably known for the song Loser and the albums Odelay and Mellow Gold. This is his dance record, which is kind of a weird thing to say because he's also got acoustic bass albums like Sea Change, which I love, but Midnight Vultures is one of those I had definitely written off. So when I go to spin this, I do get a lot of satisfaction because, like I said, I never thought I would own that on vinyl. It's never been reissued. Hopefully someday it will get reissued so more people can enjoy it on vinyl. All right. What are some of your best sounding albums? This is actually a good one because I've got a video planned for it, so I'll give you a teaser. I'm gonna come right over here because I've already got a few separated out. So as far as my best sounding albums, this is one of my copies, one of my RL copies of Led Zeppelin II. That means it's mastered by Robert Ludwig. It's known as the Hot Mix. Fantastic sounding album, even with some surface noise. It's not a perfect copy, but man, is it beautiful to listen to. I've also got in this bunch, speaking of Sea Change, Right on Cue by Beck, a fantastic sounding album. Counting Crows, August and Everything After. This is the Analog Productions. Fantastic sounding album. I won't go through all these. Last one I'll show you, also Analog Productions, LA Woman by the Doors. Amazing remastered version of a classic album. Those are some of the ones that I'm going to talk about in that upcoming video. I'm going to do my best sounding albums. All right. What is your most expensive album? And if you're on an island and you can only have 3, what would they be? Ooh, I don't know about that second one. That whole desert island thing. We'd be here for an hour. But your most expensive album, I think if you go by Discogs, it is my newly acquired copy of Tool Inema, which is here. So definitely one of the more expensive ones. I've also got a lot of pretty valuable Pearl Jam albums. This is original copy of Rearview Mirror, which is their greatest hits. That one's gotten pretty sought after. I've also got original copy of Lost Dogs, equally as valuable. Love all those records. I've had those for many years. Some others, I showed the Tom Petty record, Wildflowers. That one's a pretty valuable one in my collection. Also, this record right here, if I can pull it out, this is an original copy of Queens of the Stone Age, Songs for the Deaf, on red vinyl. This is not an unofficial. This is the official copy, and that's a pretty valuable record that I enjoy a lot. So there you go. A few for that list as far as my most valuable or expensive. Oh my gosh, let's see. I'm only going to do a couple more, guys. My first record was a 45 of Hound Dog by Elvis. Do you remember what your first record was? I honestly don't. I had what I would consider to be junk records for a few years, probably that were inherited, passed down from my parents. But the first record, so I guess I would count those because I technically own them, and they're probably still in my collection. Some of my mom's Beatles records and things, which are pretty cool. The first record I remember buying myself, there's two of them. One of them is this particular album right here, which is Led Zeppelin 3. I bought this in Los Angeles, which at the time I was with my band and we were out there recording an album. So I distinctly remember buying this. I don't remember the record shop. It wasn't Amoeba. It was a small shop off Sunset Strip. So that I remember spending my own money on. But again, that was kind of years later. The other album I do have a very fond memory of purchasing myself. I feel like I'm talking a lot about Pearl Jam, but hey, that's how it rolls, is this copy of Vitology. The reason why Vitology is important and why I remember it is because it came out before the CD. So if you were one of the cool kids in high school in 1995 and you had a turntable, you got to listen to Vitology 2 weeks before everybody else, which was amazing. So those are some of the early ones I remember. All right. What's the story behind the Journey Raised on Radio album you have hanging on the wall? That is right there. The story behind that is that my son, who is 12, he likes to change the colors of the album. So he color coordinates them. So as you can see, the color coordination was all blue. So he went through and picked out 6 albums and handed to me and said, put these up. And that's the story behind it of why that's up there. So, all right, let's do a couple more. I swear, but this is kind of fun. That's kind of a repeat. What record do you have the most copies or variants of? That's probably the Tripping Daisy stuff like I showed. I've also got, I mean, I try and, like I mentioned, I try not to collect variants of too many albums, but if you go into like Zeppelins, I've got 2 or 3 of each of the Zeppelins. I've got 2 or 3 of pretty much all the Grateful Dead studio records, 2 or 3 of a lot of the Pink Floyd records. So again, but a lot of them are different versions. A lot of them it's like different country pressings or maybe some color variants and things like that. But again, it's few and far between. I bet there are less than 50 albums in my whole collection that I've got more than one of. All right, we're going to pick 2 more, and that's how we're going to do this. 2 more questions. I'm going to go to the second page, and I'll have to answer some more of these in some other format maybe. But all right, what is your favorite album art and why? Oh my gosh, that's so difficult. Favorite album art. I'm going to do everything I can to not answer with Pearl Jam No Code because that's probably my favorite album art. But if I had to specify, oh man, I don't know if I can pick that quickly. I do like that Queens of the Stone Age art. I'm trying to think. Physical Graffiti, I already showed that. That's an amazing album cover and package. One album, this is a very random album. One album that I really like the cover art on, and then more so the photography, is this record right here, which this is not a particularly rare, it's an amazing record. This album right here. I love this photograph on the cover of this Glenn Hansard record. This is Didn't He Ramble? Is that the name of it? Yes, Didn't He Ramble? This is a shot by Danny Clinch. It's actually just a photo of him behind a really scratched up piece of glass. I always thought it was beautiful. Not necessarily album art, but I love the photography on it. So I really appreciate that one. That's something that always stands out. And I'm really surprised I thought of that right now off the cuff. Okay, last one. Let's see if we can come up with a good one. Okay. What are your top 5 jazz albums? Let's end on that one. Okay, top 5 jazz albums. We're going to come over here. This is, so I'm not a huge jazz guy. I don't have a massive jazz collection. Let me see. Can you point that down here? Get it all the way down here? All right, so I do have a couple. This is one of them. I recently acquired this. This is Kenny Dorman's Quiet Kenny. Absolutely amazing record. This is not an original press. The original presses of this go for many, many hundreds of dollars. This is actually, I think, an 80s reissue, and it in itself is pretty valuable. So that's a phenomenal record. Let's see what else I have. I love Grant Green. I've been collecting a lot of his stuff recently, so there's probably 1 or 2 of his I would put on that list. I'm just going to pull some out. See what else we have. Louis Armstrong's really good. This is a great album. This would probably make top 5. Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, just moaning, a phenomenal record. Let's see what else we got here. Some more Grant Green. I would be remiss if I didn't show you any Miles Davis. which are going to be over here. So I've got a number. Oh, here's another couple. This is definitely one. Kenny Burrell, Blue Midnight. That's going to be in the top 5. What else we got? There's the Grant Green Idle Moments. That's a phenomenal record. And I think probably it's impossible to choose between these 2 albums right here. I've got several copies of both, and that would be Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, of course, and Miles Davis, Birth of the Cool. So I don't know if I named top 5, but I certainly pulled a few out that I really, really like. So that's my list. Those are my answers to your questions. Like I said, there were like 75 questions on the list. So there's no way I could get them all, but hopefully I picked off a few that were good. It was pretty fun going through these blindly. Like I said, I'll have to answer some more maybe in another forum or some questions or do a live. Maybe I'll do a live video where I can go through a lot more of these and not walk around the room, but just answer them vocally. So thank you so much to everybody for contributing, for giving me great questions to go off of. I will probably do this again, maybe be a little more specific. This is about my collection. Maybe next time I'll do an AMA about the music industry or the vinyl record industry or something like that. So thank you so much for all the support. As always, stick around on the channel. I'll pop up some more videos you might like. Once again, my name is G.I. Sanders from NTX Vinyl. Really appreciate your time and your support, and we'll see you again next time on Talking About Records.